After watching this last episode of Married to Medicine and seeing how Dr. Gregory talked to Sweet Tea like that in that moment, Married to Medicine has gotten way too dark for me. And I am not sure that I can continue to support or even watch this show. Let's talk about it.
Y'all already know what time it is. I got the black V-neck on.
This last episode of Married to Medicine was a no-no. It was a no-no. I've been watching this show for years. Never in a million years would I have thought that I would have saw something like that. Greg should have never been brought to this show. I've been saying for a minute that Sweet Tea could possibly be a victim of the same thing that Greg was doing to Quad. And a lot of people gave me pushback on it. A lot of folks have been heavily reliant on anti-fatness and everything else to support their disdain for Sweet Tea and saying that she caused this problem. She knew what she was getting into. And no one was ever interested in seeing her as a victim. But understanding how the world works and how it treats people like Sweet Tea and even myself, you will never be seen as the victim, because to be a victim, you have to be seen as human. And people do not look. I know this might be a little too much for some folks, and oh God, here we go. Yes, here I go. Because y'all have literally turned too dark online too. It's not even just Married to Medicine. It's also the fans and the reactions to Sweet Tea. We can talk about Sweet Tea. We can talk about these folks without getting into the nastiness of it all. The way y'all have described Sweet Tea's body and how she looks and how even the cast has talked about her is some of the most disgusting things. And they have done it for a while. You saw comments about Heavenly's body. You saw comments about Jackie's body. You've seen comments like that in the past. They apologized. They moved on from it. But how Sweet Tea has been talked about, it's too much for me. Added to the fact that Sweet Tea is being treated like this. Seeing Greg talk to this grown woman like this in this moment, when all she was doing during this time was offering support and saying, I would have been there for you. Sweet Tea was basically saying, I would have got my butt whooped too, but I would have supported you. I wouldn't have allowed anything to happen to you. And even in this moment, Greg can't even see that because he's too busy worried about her being a woman and a naive woman. To call this grown woman naive on national television is the goofiest I have ever seen in my life. For you to be a psychiatrist and talking like that and can't control your anger when they've been talking about your anger problems for a minute now, Greg, you don't need to come back to this show. You do not need to come back to this show because you have not changed at all. You've not done, not even no healing. You've not even done work on yourself and realizing why you lost your first wife. You're still carrying on this to Sweet Tea, and you might be able to get away with it even more because Sweet Tea is way younger than you, which is why I've talked about the power dynamics of it all, because Gregory is 20 years older than Sweet Tea. Not only is he 20 years older than her, but he makes more money than her. And she is living in his house. So who has the power in this relationship? Who is taking what, even if Sweet Tea has access to the money? What does that mean when this man is saying that the deal breaker is if you can't give me a child, that's a chop. That's a chop. The only reason why he wasn't able to get on Quad like this is because Quad will buck up a little bit. And this last episode, we saw that he was belittling her. The most disgusting thing I have ever seen on this show. The way he talked to her, and I like Sweet Tea. I've been defending her. I'm going to defend her. Because the way folks have been talking about her is completely unnecessary. And it goes to show you how we look at people like Sweet Tea who are not deserving of any protection or any grace. The way that Gregory talked to Sweet Tea in that moment, it went to a place that I do not want to be in. Losing a family member to domestic violence and seeing a man talk to a woman like that on a show that I love, it hurt me. It hurt me because this is supposedly real TV. It got so real that even when Gregory walked up, we saw the real version of him, essentially like the cameras were not there and they were still mic'd. And you heard Sweet Tea plead for him to be calm, to be quiet, because she knew in that moment that he was saying stuff that he was going to regret because it was going to be on the show. She was trying to protect him in that moment. She wasn't even looking out for herself. She wasn't even thinking about herself being disrespected too much. She moved on from it and was advocating for him to be quiet to protect himself. Y'all, we got to be honest. We got to be honest about how we engage in things and how we talk about things and who we see. Because for folks not to see Sweet Tea as a victim nowhere in this last 2 seasons, a possible victim, isn't lost on me. It isn't lost on me understanding how desire capital works. How people who are deemed ugly or unattractive, as you all have talked about Sweet Tea, are not deserving of any grace or even any ears or anything. You're not even seen. We have essentially admitted that we're tolerating Sweet Tea, and her being married to Dr. Gregory, essentially she is responsible for that. Had that been somebody who people saw as attractive, they would have been a little bit more caring about it. They would have still probably called her dumb because that's how misogyny works. Like, you're dumb to stay in a relationship with this man, and we're not holding this man responsible or accountable for the things that he's saying. Greg does not need to come back to the show. To see Bravo, I'm gonna have to be honest, to see y'all exploit Quad's pain as well as Sweet Tea's that's going on right now is disgusting. It's disgusting to see y'all bring back Greg after Quad shared what happened in their relationship, in their marriage, how she accused him of these things, and y'all brought him back, and then y'all saw that footage, and then y'all still allowed it. I'm not messing with it. Y'all gonna have to take some accountability too. Y'all should have never had Quad and Greg sit directly across from each other to begin with. Y'all are playing some mean type of games. And the folks on this show are so used to getting a check for keeping up the mess that they can't even tell the difference between reality and real life. Y'all want to pretend like y'all are a supportive group of friends. Y'all can't be. You can't be. Because there is no way in the hell that y'all saw Gregory talk to Sweet Tea like that and y'all blame Sweet Tea for it. I'm calling all of y'all out. All of y'all out. Y'all are so busy trying to paint somebody as the villain or whatever that y'all can't even hold y'all quote unquote friend accountable. Because Dr. Gregory is y'all friend. He's y'all husband friend. And the moment he was talking to, I hope y'all done had a conversation. Because if y'all want to talk about being men and standing up, since we out here proving who a real man is, every man on that show should be having a conversation with Gregory after seeing that. They should have had a conversation with him after he was talking to Sweet Tea like that at that thing. See, this is where we get into accountability, because this is something that I don't understand when it comes to men talking about protecting women, because let's not play. Let's not play. This is not about protecting women, because let's be honest. What King was trying to promote as him protecting Quad was not protection. It was protection as a version of property. Let's talk about it, because Quad ate it up and said that Greg shouldn't talk to no woman like that. Point blank, period. But if men were so interested in protecting their women or protecting women, we wouldn't be dealing with all the stuff we're dealing with in the world. Women wouldn't be scared to be at a gas station and feel like they have to give their phone numbers out to live or not be harassed. So how much protection is y'all doing? Because it's only in protection of y'all selves and feeling like y'all are more than, and y'all are real men, to quote Dr. Heavenly. And I'm gonna get into you in just a minute. How that happened in that moment, King was not protecting Quad. He was performing toxic masculinity, patriarchal down. There is no way in the hell Gregory should have been able to talk to Sweet Tea like that in that moment. And I'm hoping that if these men are so-called real men, that the men would have checked him and said, hey, like, brother, this ain't, in a way that is, brother, you can't be talking to your girl like that. And they probably did, because I kind of like the men on this show, but some of y'all are so heavy dipping y'all toe into this patriarchal mess that y'all can't see the forest because of the trees. Y'all think this is how it's supposed to be. You got Kuntessa husband making jokes and stuff about it, like not about the whole situation, but oh, that's girly stuff. Like the toxicity, all of it is way too much for me. I've dealt with it because I know y'all age group and what's it giving, because I can't tell if my appetite for stuff like this has changed or if it's truly too toxic. And I think it's the latter. Because yes, my appetite has changed and I'm not interested in some of these things. And I feel like the show has gotten too dark. Seeing the conversations online and how people are reacting to castmates that they do not like, how they're talking about him, even in this moment, how people are dragging Heavenly for what she said. Rightfully so, but we can talk about Heavenly without engaging in fat phobia. We don't have to talk about the way she looks to describe what she said was messed up. But what's interesting about this is, as much as everybody has been laughing at Sweet Tea and about her body, and Heavenly has been giggling at it and all the shots made towards her, now she is now experiencing that same fat phobia. See how that works? See how that works? So, Bravo, y'all got to fix this. I don't know if y'all have tried to amend this during the reunion, but this was way too dark for me. Way too dark. It's not even just the fight with King and Gregory. It is the exploitation of pain that we're constantly seeing. I don't want to see Quad have to sit directly across from her ex-husband who she has accused of abuse. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see this same husband who has been accused of these things now do this to his current wife and talk to her in that type of way. Yes, there are arguments and disagreements in relationships and marriages. That's going to happen. You even have those with family members and friends, but it's how you talk to folks. And Greg invalidated her time and time again and talked down to her before they even went upstairs and the cameras were not watching. That microphone revealed a lot about Gregory, to the point that Quad even named it in her response. And Quad, I love you down boots, honey, but there was no need to talk about how Sweet Tea has treated you to call out what was happening. That was unnecessary. And I know folks going to push back on that, but if we're talking about how serious abuse is, we need to get into it. And Quad does this thing sometimes where it's very performative. Not saying she's performing too much in this conversation, but this is not the time to try to take a jab at Sweet Tea, because that's what it came off to me. Like, I tried to tell y'all, we're talking about this serious stuff that you experienced. And Quad, you got to hold yourself accountable too, because as much as you were receiving these rightful apologies for how the group allowed this man to come back, you need to be also calling out production for allowing this man to come back too, because they played in your face. But how you went to your ex-husband's new wife bachelorette party. So while we talking about don't bring exes to the group, exes are showing up to the new wives bachelorette party. So you have been doing some antagonizing too. And you were saying some shady stuff to Gregory. You got to admit that you were doing that as well. Like, you were antagonizing and being shady. That's my issue that I'm having with Quad, is that it's so shady to the point that it's so heavy. It's supposed to be fun, but seeing how y'all have completely co-opted all of the ballroom queer language, we see all of our lingo, all of our saying, all on the TV, and we ain't seeing none of us on any of these shows. None of us are in any of these shows, because if we were, we wouldn't be talking like y'all do. The show has gotten way too dark for me. On and off camera, it's way too much. Even heavily in her YouTube channel, how she's been talking about the cast. Like, it's way too much, and it's just been slowly building and building, and it's blowing up. Y'all gonna have to let Greg go, because I'm saying here right now, if Greg comes back next season, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to continue to watch. And I hate that Sweet Tea will be on the negative receiving end of that, but it is what it is. I cannot take Greg, and I feel like they're already setting up the possibility of Greg not being invited back. And you know what? I wouldn't be mad if Greg was going and Sweet Tea was going, as well as King and maybe even Quad. Like, there has to be some accountability. Even what King did, like, we're not dealing with that. If y'all gonna say folks be getting in folks' face and doing all of that, then some of y'all have to take some accountability as well, because even Heavenly, girl, there was no need for you to be jumping up at Sweet Tea when she called you out for bringing Apollo on this trip. Like, that was unnecessary. Like, the way you talked to that girl, You don't even see her as a possible equal, and y'all both on the same show. Like y'all, like say what you want to say about Sweet Tea, and she less than. She on the same show with you. The same exact show. To be honest, a lot of y'all are not even eating like y'all think y'all are. I don't care how many Fendi shirts y'all buy or rent or whatever, or how many labels y'all wearing and coach. Like, girl, it's not giving. But that's my thoughts. I have been reviewing Married to Medicine on Patreon. If you're interested in following that, I just had to give my thoughts out, baby. I already talked about it down in a whole other video. But this is the cleaned up version as best as I could do because I'm pissed to the highest pissivity. Tell me your thoughts about Married to Medicine getting too dark for you. Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.